Hi there, and thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Scott Yu Ryu, and this is a new segment on Soon Creations called the Talk Soon Talk Show. What it's gonna be is a place where I get to discuss arts or literature with my friends that I've graduated from university from, or give you a smaller video like today, myself. Today we're gonna be talking about some local artists that performed a show recently. So for today's segment, we're going to be talking about Unison, the local band's concert, presented by the Brock Singer-Songwriter Club. It featured the bands Down the Middle, Juliet Godden, Moonlight Circus, and Almost Through April. This show was split up into 4 segments, where each band had roughly 45 minutes to an hour to showcase their own set. And it featured local bands, either alumni from Brock University, or some students currently at the school, or just local bands in the area. So the first band we're going to be talking about is Down the Middle. They were the opener to the show, and I gotta say, they had some really cool music. They were like a classic indie rock band type of vibe, and they had some of the best stage chemistry I've seen in a while. What I loved about this band is that you could tell they were friends, and they were kind of just jamming out with you. What I will also say, probably my favorite part of their act was their beautiful harmonies. The singer and the guitarist, they were able to vocalize together in such a beautiful way, and it was so smooth. It didn't feel choppy, but it also didn't feel rehearsed in a weird way. It felt so authentic, and that's so refreshing to see in a live show. I really had a good time listening to them. Me and my friends liked them as the opener just because they were able to put out this energy into the show and kind of set it up. They looked super confident on stage too, which is always such a bonus. I loved being able to see them actually love performing. And it was a fun time, can't complain. So next up we have Juliet Godden. So next up, we have Juliet Godden, and I gotta say, she was probably the most unique sound for this entire show. Juliet Godden was actually folk, and she was the only acoustic artist on stage. But what I will say is that she didn't feel out of place. It was really nice change of pace, and it was actually perfect for her to go second before the other 2 bands. I really liked her vulnerability with her music. She talked a lot about why she wrote these songs, how she came to it, and all of her stories were super interesting to hear. It was great. It was a fun time. I loved hearing her intent behind each song, and she has a beautiful voice. It was very soft and gentle. It felt very real. It didn't feel manufactured. It didn't feel like she had some sort of stage persona. It was her true self on stage, and I think that was what made the night special for her performance. I would love to see her perform again, and I think if she were to continue to keep making music, I would love for her to be the only one on stage still, because I really do feel that fits her vibe. She even played the harmonica and played the guitar by herself at one point at the same time, and it was a great time. So, fantastic job, Juliet Godden, and we're going to be moving on to the next band. So moving on to the third act of the night, it's going to be Moonlight Circus. They were more of a classic rock vibe and a bit more, I want to say 70s or 80s. I'm not a music professor or anything like that by any means, but they kind of gave almost this like Beatles vocals and energy within their songs. The vocals were great for this show. They harmonized well, and they had different people singing different songs, and it was actually really cool to hear different singers but on the same set, you know? They also played this fun game with the audience where every single time they raised their hand, you would have to yell, "Yup." And it was a great way to connect with the audience, and overall, it was a super fun time. They also loved bantering with each other on stage, and I gotta say, I love that kind of stuff, especially when you're seeing a live show. Obviously, I don't want to hear it in my playlists or in my earbuds, but when you're seeing a live show, banter is a part of it, you know? So it was cool to see, again, just a bunch of friends making music together. It was really awesome, yeah. So overall, great performance. I couldn't complain. And I loved their shades. All of them were rocking some dope shades on stage.
Not really sure where I am, who I am, or what I'm doing. I try to look around the room, find something familiar, find something comforting. Nothing. Only the return gaze of faces I don't even recognize. Then suddenly, the sky opens up and the walls dissipate. And a grand staircase appears in front of me. I'm forced to watch as every person I've ever met ascends this staircase, while I remain chained to this bed. Nobody stops to help me. Nobody even looks at me.
And last but not least, we had Almost a April. And I gotta say, they're more of like a punk. They had a bit of screamo in there at times, and they're a bit more metal, I wanna say, or metal adjacent than the other bands, and they were a great time. They had some fun banter on stage, they had some great stage chemistry, and they played some amazing tracks. One of my favorites from them is Ouroboros, which I believe is going to be premiering sometime soon. They had great stage chemistry together, they had great vocals, they were playing some fun games with the audience, and it was actually really funny. At one point, the bassist sang into the absolute wrong microphone, and sometimes that could put a brake on the whole operation and stop it all, but they kind of steered into the skid, and it was super cool to watch them perform. One thing I really liked about their songs were the concepts that they had behind them. One of the albums that they're going to be releasing, it follows a character's journey throughout the entire album. And that stuff I truly love. I love it when an album or a set or tracks have concepts behind them, because music isn't just about listening, it's also kind of storytelling if you really think about it. They did some crazy headbanging, set the tone for the show, and overall they ended it with a bang, and you gotta love them for that. They also did one of my favorite covers of the night, which was Creep by Radiohead, and they kind of killed it. They got the whole audience singing along, and it was super, super fun. Well done, guys. Congratulations. And those were all the bands. I gotta say, one of my favorite moments of the entire show, though, was when Juliet Godden performed a cover of What's Up by the Four Non-Blondes. I didn't actually recognize the song at first when she started playing it, but it was one of my favorite covers of all time because it was performed so beautifully and the entire crowd was singing along. There's no way they weren't.
And I said, hey, yeah, yeah.
The show was also performed at The Warehouse, which is a local concert venue in St. Catharines. It was a really great setup. It felt very warm and cozy, but there was a bar area, and I gotta say the pale ale was delicious. I loved the venue, and it was a really warm and cozy and inviting night. It didn't feel like I couldn't talk to a total stranger that I didn't know. And it was also really cool to be able to go up to the performers and talk to them and let them know what I thought of their set. And I gotta say, all the sets were awesome. Thank you so much to everyone who sent in footage from the night. I gotta admit, I came up with this idea to talk about local art halfway through the show, but it was because of their beautiful performances that I felt like this is something I wanna talk about on this show. So all the credits for all the media and stuff, that'll be all down below in the description. All the links to the musicians will be in the description down below. Unfortunately, you couldn't catch it live, but hey, at least you can catch it online. That's that for the first episode of the Talk Soon Talk Show. My name is Scott Yu Ryu, and as always, see you soon.